Good morning. It's October the 16th, 2024. People have been complaining that I'm having too many plosives in my videos. So they said, put a thing on your microphone, Joe, so that we don't have to hear you talking with the plosives all the time. And I said, well, the thing is, I live an hour from Quesnel, and the music store is open when it's open. I don't even know if they have microphone covers. I could go to Prince George to log a McQuaid. That's 2 hours away, 4 hours. I could contribute that much carbon emission just to put a... So I found an old kid's sock and put it on there. I mean, I live up here in the mountains. This is what you get here. And why sometimes I don't act the way that science people act or the way that town folk act, because I don't play their rules. I don't care about their shit. Okay, so it's raining pretty good right now in Wells. Not snowing here yet, but I'm sure there's places that it is snowing. We'll find them. We'll find them here in the episode. Going to be a nasty couple days, man. I told you so. Okay, it's the Bad News Show. Let's go.
There it is. This is bad news. My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen.
Get on. Wow.
I'll watch the video later. They dry mopping this.
Found my sponsorship deal with communicationspodcast.ca has finally ended after 2 great months. But don't worry if you want to know more, because Tim is going to be on the Meteorological Report tomorrow night here in the podcast. So do tune at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when we do the podcast, and we will be talking to Tim Conrad. And it's not because that Tim was the sponsor that I'm like, well, that also guarantees you a spot on our show, because you know what? The next sponsor could be Jim Bob's Auto Shop. It's because Tim is interesting. He gets to come on. Okay, here is Canada right now. Fog advisory, Caribou North going on. North, including Quesnel. This fog is expected to dissipate in the next couple hours in Northwest Territories. On the west side of Northwest Territories, dense fog developing near Mackenzie and Liard Rivers. I would expect that today we're going to see some change in this. We're going to see some more special weather statements probably pop up, or maybe for stretches where we might see some snow falling on mountain passes and things tonight. So I don't know if we'll see any warnings necessarily, but I would expect some statements that would attest, much like these ones here, go all the way down to the very, very tip of southern Ontario there, go Sarnia, and then down to Windsor. They got frost there still happening. There's been a lot of frost in Ontario lately. Lots of frost for them, and that continues up to Montreal, and then if you go up to there's a Labrador up here. I missed it. Trans-Labrador Highway through Eagle River. They got special weather statement there because first accumulating snowfall of the season is going on up there, up to the very northern tip of Quebec. Wind warning 90 kilometer hour. There's often some very strong winds up there. Oh, there's also this guy hiding. Snowfall warning up there for Grise Fjord, Nunavut. 10 to 15 centimeters. So first significant snowfall of the year falling up there. And we can see a little bit of that here when we look at the surface analysis for the day. Here's a cold front that's kind of slamming through right now up into Hudson Bay. And the very, very tip up there, that's somewhere up there is where some of that snowfall is landing up in Grise Fjord. A bit of a low pressure system starting to develop in Alberta. That is pulling some warm air up towards Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan could see temperatures 10 or maybe even more degrees above seasonal today, so you're going to get a real nice warm-up in Sask. You're going to really, really like that compared to, the chilly nights they've been having down there in Ontario and the chilly nights we're about to have here in BC. Don't worry, Sask. It won't last long. Cold front is moving through BC today, and it's going to be bringing quite a bit of precipitation with us. That low is still sort of spinning out there in the Gulf of Alaska. Although it's weakening and it's trying to cross into land today, like I suggested it would, couldn't really just jump the mountains easily. It had to fight to get across, and now it's doing that fighting, and it's going to send significant rounds of rain and snow and things like that into the province of British Columbia. Nice high pressure sitting out there in the Atlantic Ocean right now, although that is helping to feed some of that moisture that is more or less still the remnants of our hurricane last week, Milton. Although I don't think this is organized as such, but this is the general area of moisture and instability that kind of resulted out of that, and it's still hitting up into Atlantic Canada, although you're starting to see the end of that. More of that precip's slamming up there into, looks like France and Portugal especially, and well, maybe even Italy getting a little bit of that rain in there as well. Up into the UK, up through Scotland, a little bit through Ireland. Yes, yeah, looks like a kind of a ribbon of water there. It looks pretty impressive. And speaking of ribbon of water, we can see there's still a lot out there in the North Pacific. Although we got this high pressure system that's supposed to be there, it generally lives in those mid latitudes. That's the anticyclone that would generally sit off the California coast and often protects California and keeps it a very dry place there, the doldrums, more or less, at the bottom of here. New low sitting out there, only 1,000 hectopascals. We'll see how deep that can develop. As you can see, darkness is arriving in Europe. Large high pressure system sitting over top the entire United States, almost the entire United States. And that's making for very, very nice weather there, very sunny days. Don't get too used to it. We're going to see some of this developing into its own storm system. It's going to push through the United States, I think, in the next bunch of days. And when it does finally get its act together, it could be one of those systems that brings tornadoes and severe thunderstorms and things like that through these Midwestern places, Western, Midwestern places. Meanwhile, a little bit of a low now beginning to form in Alberta. That's bringing showers into North Saskatchewan and northern Alberta. You're looking at BC, we got right where the big mountains are, basically. You got this run of mountains that comes up from the United States. In there's like Mount Chiam and things like that, right? It's like, so you got this sort of southerly approach of rain coming into Abbotsford and places like that, more or less, I would think. Just missing Abbotsford. Hope, Chilliwack, definitely getting some of that for sure. And up in the Fraser Canyon, pretty gross. Look at this big ribbon of cloud. Wowzers. Revelstoke getting quite a bit of precip right now. Nakus, Salmon Arm. I wonder if up in the mountains a little bit of that's falling as snow. It is only 3.5 degrees here in Wells right now, 4,000 feet. So it is at least possible that some of that is falling as snow. Looks like maybe a little bit of gravity waves jumping over the Rockies into the Alberta side. Very, very heavy deck of cloud cover there in southern BC. Finally getting some of your rain down there. Oh, they've been really, really thirsty for it. Really thirsty for it. Caribou right now looking pretty gross here in Wells. Taking some heavy rain. Woke up to the sound of it just slamming on the roof. We got cloud everywhere. Everything's very cloudy today, so you're not going to be seeing the sun very much at all, even if you don't get much of this rain. Go up through Prince George. Definitely seeing it up through the 97, up through the Heart, as you cross into the Pine Pass, where Powder King is and whatnot. Into Chetwynd, into the Peace, even the Peace getting some of this rain and moisture. We can turn off radar here and have a look at infrared and see if there's anything else we're missing. So there may be snowfall happening in northern BC right now as well. Fort Nelson area, more or less, that northeastern corner of BC, taking some precip. Looks like if you go to the Yukon, Northwest Territories border, quite possibly, still a little bit of lingering showers likely through the Terrace and Surf Inlet area. And if you look off the coast of Vancouver Island, but yeah, there's more or less our big ribbon of precip still that's hitting Blue River, Kamloops, Kelowna. All of you are sort of underneath that. So that's areas that could see some showers developing through there as well today. Just having a look at Wells, BC weather, and that's brought to you by the buyers of my new weather station, Diggy's Diner. They also run Moose Island Foods here in Wells, BC. Let's have a look in Wells. Most interesting thing right now, besides it being 3.3 degrees above at just after 9 in the morning when I'm recording this, 997 is the hectopascal pressure. So very, very low pressure for inland right now. Got down to 0.4 degrees this morning. So didn't get too deep into the freezing last night at all, but a little bit. But we did drop a fair bit of pressure. We dropped 5 hectopascals. Here's a quick look at the jet stream. You can see finally some of that nastiness is moving out of Atlantic Canada, but it gets replaced pretty quickly by an active jet streak right through you as well. Look at this next run now. You can see warm temperatures going through Saskatchewan. Won't last too long. Then you're going to have a big dip in the jet stream. Going to cool off for you guys too. Here's that storm forming in the United States. I was talking about that upper level low. I think as that rushes across, that's going to make quite a bit of noise, and we got another one forming in behind it, quite likely off the coast. So those are things that may break that nice high pressure that's been going on in the United States and could drive some severe weather into you as well. So BC sitting on the north side of the jet stream for quite a while now. Looks like now that we're getting into it this next week, we're going to stay more or less there. There she drops down. Thursday, Friday, Saturday still there. Well, then we're taking some heavy moisture through the weekend. I'm sorry if my video yesterday upset some of you. I know this isn't exactly the Weather Network here. I'm just Joey up here in the mountains, and I'm going to say what I want to say. You're gonna have to deal with that. All I've ever really wanted in my life is to just say whatever the hell I want to say. Okay, well, I'm gonna say some things right now about this GFA. This is a graphical forecast area. This is something that the pilots will be looking at here as Collaborative Flight Planning Services, Navigation Canada. These are tricky maps. People used to hate when I push these on to Interior Weather and Wilderness Watchers. I try to give a lot of explanations. People will be like, I still don't get it. I'll do my best here to help you with this. So here's our low pressure system coming ashore up into Alaska right now, looping around. So we got a higher threat of thunderstorms today. That's the one thing that kind of surprised me. I know I did say in the last forecast that maybe we'd see a few flashes of lightning through the Caribbean and whatnot, but it seems to me that we're having much higher chance and a much wider spread. So we could see that up in northern BC where the cold front's really rubbing against the warm up there and not making much progression, and there's a warm front slamming northward as well. And that collision course is why you're going to see some lightning in there, right? So we have cold front moving up there. They're going to have isolated tower and cumulus as well as it comes through there, right? And that cold front coming through southern BC. In the mountaintops, could see a little bit of snow in the morning. That's been happening. I'm sure there has been some snow already. I've not checked drivebc.ca, but I would be a little bit concerned that some of these mountain passes over the night could see south of Haida Gwaii, little flashes of lightning still at this time. Another cold front, primary cold front moving through southern BC, and that's the A here, where we have intermittent occasional ACC, new low forming over there in Alberta side. And we go to next forecast image. You can see that low now pushing up and through, giving more or less two cold fronts coming through the province at the same time, right? That low up north, up in the 998 sort of area. Got those flashes of lightning up towards the big mountains up there. Could see some flashes of lightning still off the coast of Bella, places like that. Southeastern BC even. That A region, that could make its way all the way up into the Caribou as well, up into Clearwater, maybe even McBride. So those are areas that you could maybe see some embedded thunderstorms within some of these heavier bands of rain. And as you look into later in the day, as we come towards evening, in the nighttime, we're seeing quite a few of these areas where we could really see, there's scattered cumulus there at 12,000 feet, more or less. They could be capable of punching a little higher and producing some towering cumulus that would more or less make some lightning and thunderstorms and things like that today. So that's, the sort of the skinny. Along this route, if you're flying, going to be a lot of turbulence. Here's this jet aiming at southern BC right now. Here we are Wednesday morning. As you can see, southeastern BC, a little bit of rain down there, taking it pretty good in Hope. Some scattered snow up through the coast mountains as you go. Northern BC, seeing a little bit. Throughout the day, a little bit of moisture and precipitation gets to everybody. As you come into the evening, you're going to see more snow up in the mountains. So definitely if you're driving that stretch of Revelstoke tonight or up through Jasper, maybe a little less snow possibility on Highway 3 if you need to go to Alberta tonight. That would probably be the best option overnight into Alberta. Lots of snow up through the coast mountains. I wouldn't want to be driving the Duffy tonight as well. And I do have to tell you that, I live up here in the mountains, right? I live on a mountain road that's quite treacherous quite often. We get ridiculous amounts of snowfall here all the time in the wintertime, except last winter. Go figure. So we get ridiculous snowfall here often, right? And all of us in Wells are very used to driving in the snowfall. In fact, if you're behind one of us in the highway and we're going slow, you better be going slow too, because we know what's up, right? So the thing is, I find this time of year is when it's the most treacherous on the highway. That's because you get into January here and you lose control on the road. Well, the road's frozen, first of all, solid, so that's good, and it's got all kinds of gravel and crap on top of it. And you start to go off the road. Well, the road has got 12-foot high snowbanks on either side to stop you from going down there where you don't want to go. So that's really positive, whereas at this time of year, you get rain, then suddenly at night it freezes up. You get a bit of a freeze overnight. Suddenly you get one small slippery stretch. Spinning you go into the ditch down there 15, 20, 50 feet, 5,000 feet, however fucking fall you have to go. So to me, I take a lot more seriously snowfall at this time of year than I do when we're in a January, and it's like, well, 5 centimeters is going to be falling today. No big deal. We're all kind of in that pattern. We're all used to driving in the winter. And it's not just that people forget how to drive when it comes to this time of year and they're not used to it. It's just that shock of the first time you hit it. And you haven't hit it for 8 months, and then suddenly you hit a slippery spot that, you got to reprogram your reaction time for what to do. Finally, that's going to be moving out on throughout the day on Thursday, and maybe just a little bit of lingering flurries and whatnot are possible in the Columbias, Caribous, Rockies, things like such. Friday, get our next clear day. That kind of reminds us of Tuesday. Had a nice day here yesterday. Got a big load of wood done. But don't get too used to it because we're just going to slam in extra hard this weekend. Some of those snowfall totals look really bad. So if you're going down Heckman Pass, look the hell out. That should bring some snow into the Caribou. I wouldn't be surprised if some of that visits, because it's now we're talking overnight into Saturday morning. I wouldn't be surprised if some of that falls, even in lower elevation places like where you tend to live. So often the way I forecast is because I live up in the mountains, and I know a lot of you live way down deep in those deep little valleys, but and then the weather kind of goes over you, and that's the nature. That's why partly you build down there in those low places. It's warmer and drier, and a better place to survive in, right? So the weather that's coming through your hilltops necessarily isn't always the same as what you're experiencing. So we do have chances of sleet and things like that, freezing rain. Going to be some nasty weather in that stretch down to Bella Coola, I think, once you come out of the Chilcotin Plateau through this weekend. So looks like we could have the atmospheric river. I'm going to keep saying the word because that's the appropriate word, and I just want to get it into your heads that here in British Columbia, this is the delivery system of our weather quite often. Most of the time it's beneficial. Most of the time it's fairly normal. Occasionally we get one very extreme example that stalls in one place. But we don't want to just use the word atmospheric river for those extreme examples. We want to call that what it is. It was a Category 5 atmospheric river. These are lesser ARs, but I think it's important we keep coming back to some of that language because it's very descriptive as to what is happening out there. So heavy rain hitting the Vancouver Island, heavy snowfall up into a lot of the coast mountains through this weekend, and that mix of sleet and freezing rain and such. So you got plans to travel through any of these mountains down south, and that could even include the Coquihalla at some point. Now we got a bit of a warmth punching up into southern BC, so some of you will avoid having freezing at night, which means your chance of having snow in the lower elevation should be subsiding through the weekend, and that will mostly become a rain event if you do. So northern BC into the Yukon, seeing some flurries and whatnot. So kind of generally nasty, overcast, unsettled bunch of days coming ahead. And, it's pretty typical North Pacific fall weather. Not very enjoyable. Monday still lingering things, but more or less we're starting to clear out by Monday and taking our next break. So we're just playing the graphic out here for the next little bit to watch the next bunch of days. But as you can see, a little bit of lightning still. This ECMWF model seems to think the lightning is most likely in the Caribou sort of section. When we looked at the Navigation Canada maps, we got a really good idea that, it's possible in more places as well. We see Thursday afternoon, going to largely clear out in the southern interior, still snowing up in the north as that lows up there. Have our next storm out here, 995, not very deep at all, still dragging a pretty good tail, but not actually that well organized, this next storm. So that's what's coming this weekend, but somehow or another it's still going to more or less be steered really well by this high pressure system right into the BC coast. It's not going to have that more northerly bent that most of our storms have been seeing, so that should bring some precip directly into BC. And it will deepen as it comes in along shore. So we're looking at, I would call that atmospheric river for sure. That's a Pineapple Express, almost straight up from Hawaii. That would be an appropriate term for both these. The U.S. sitting in very nice high pressure. There's our storm that's loading up there in the American Rockies. That's looking to, once this high pressure allows it, take a jump through the American Midwest and create some severe weather. So we'll be watching for that over the next. But look at Friday, man. We're seeing some pretty solid precipitation going on. Friday is when it finally comes in on the evening on Friday. It's going to be very, very nasty. It looks like all of BC is going to be seeing more or less a little bit of this grossness. The other models seem to have Friday be a little bit more of a clear day for us, and I'm going to hope that's true. But ECMWF doesn't think so. So that's some competing modeling. Give you a bit of an idea that maybe Friday won't be as nice as we could have hinted at there. Pretty snowy in the north, pretty shitty in the south. Vancouver Island taking it hard. So there is agreement, maybe not in the timing of this, but there is more or less agreement on how it plays out. And we see Saturday, very, very messy in the north, very, very gross through much of BC. We're going to be seeing just a sort of nonstop cloud for the next little while, right? And southern BC through Sunday, we're going to have that low really come into land and really trying to settle there. We're going to see widespread snowfall in the north, widespread rain to the south, heavy bands of rain and whatnot. We hopefully will have a chance to revisit some of this as we get closer. And then we're going to get our Alberta Clipper finally really forming there on the Monday. But before it does that, very, very heavy rainfall on Vancouver Island, very, very heavy rainfall in the Coast Mountains, and that's going to be at the same time as heavy rainfall going on in the South Rockies. Everyone's going to get some rain here this next bunch of days, this next more or less week. We get a very similar story as well, where almost everybody's going to see a flurry at some point in the next bunch of days. And some of these mountain passes, you got to drive from Revelstoke to Golden, and over the course of this next bunch of days, you could see 80, 90 centimeters up there. Don't be too surprised, right? Some of your best travel will be through Highway 3 if you got to go to Alberta. Up in the Coast Mountains, some solid snowfall. If you got plans to travel the Duffy Highway, check drivebc.ca. Even down in the low places, like I was saying, a little bit of snow falling down there. If you're going between Valemount and Jasper, you're going Highway 16 through there. Could see some very large snowfall totals dropping in some places. Doesn't mean it's going to fall 60, 70 centimeters on the highway, no, but in the mountains, yeah, quite likely, which means some of that will land the highway. You're going to have some messy driving conditions. Even if you're coming through the Pine Pass, you're going to run into snowfall up there at times. That's not going to be good driving conditions for you. And you go have a look at our Bella Coola area, go pop in by Stewie. You could see some 50 centimeters dumps in the mountains up there. So concerning for how much snow you could be seeing. And go have a look up towards Terrace in the mountains there. Larger precip totals, maybe on the highway, not so much, but you could still see snowfall on the highway. So everyone getting a little bit of snowfall this next little while. I've been talking for far too long, so at some point I just got to cut this off and say, well, I hope that helps you give a picture for the next bunch of days, exactly what we're running into here. Keep your eyes and ears open for special weather statements and watches and things like that. Okay, well, that's the show for today, everybody. Hoping for a bit of a clear up on Friday, see how long we get of a gap between storms, and hoping for next week to be a little better of a week, maybe even get a chance to get some work done before things all go to hell and the wintertime comes. Okay, that's the show for today. My name is Joey Only, Caribou Weather Dude. Hit like, share, subscribe. Please join the Patreon. Please become a channel member. I really need the support here to keep this channel going. And maybe once in a while I have an unhinged video like yesterday where I just scream about shit. But as we were celebrating 5,000 subscribers today, I also put out yesterday a 40 minutes of totally wild wilderness clips. Have a look at this. It's 40 minutes of me at wildfires and seeing lightning storms. I didn't even get to the animal videos. That would be a 60-minute long movie at that point, compilation. So enjoy that. Coming out at noon today as well will be an episode from this summer. I was out fighting a fire, and when I did, my town was getting evacuated. I come back out of the wilderness and find out, oh, Joey, you can't go home. And then a video that's showing what that day was like for me will be coming on the channel at about noon today. Okay, that's the show for today. Bye now.